This episode contains detailed discussions of self-harm and suicide, which may be distressing to some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available. Go to findahelpline.com to access relevant services available in your country, or dial 988 for the 24/7 suicide hotline in Canada or the US. Please take care while listening.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Crime Family. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm here with my brother and sister, AJ and Lisa, who are my co-hosts. And today we are continuing the story of serial killer Israel Keyes. So if you didn't tune in last week, go back and listen to that one because that's kind of the introduction to Israel Keyes and his last murder of Samantha Koenig. Her abduction and murder was kind of how everything that he had done unraveled and why he got caught. So take a listen to that if you haven't already. So yeah, I guess before we move on to this next case, is there anything that you guys wanted to add or say about the previous episode about Samantha's case before we dive in?
I just think the surveillance video is what kind of makes this case. With how is that? What will make everyone remember this case forever? I think because you don't really normally see a kidnapping happening, not in real time because it's happening years ago, but like you don't normally see it happening on camera. And it's just it's absolutely chilling footage.
Yeah, I find it
Yeah.
crazy that there's like surveillance cameras and video cameras all over the place, but somehow they can't capture kidnappings and murders. And finally, this one actually did capture like the kidnapping, so it's like a rare event for
And it's
sure.
such a it's a small, tiny kiosk. It's smaller than my living room, and it has 4 cameras, like,
Mm-hmm.
other stores need to take note, like actual stores, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it really was lucky that there was surveillance cameras because if there wasn't, like this, it really would not have ended the way it did for Israel, I think.
He probably didn't even think there was cameras, like, who would think it's a little kiosk like that in the middle of nowhere has cameras, you know? He just
But I'm sure you
I
could see
know.
it. I'm sure the outside had a camera. I think he just didn't care, probably. But I was thinking, sorry, I'm going to talk about another case for 2 seconds because it relates. When there's this case which I'm sure you guys know is like this. It's like these two like teenagers went missing and like their phone recorded like the voice and like with this potential person, and that's like ended up who being the
like,
person
you mean,
who
like,
who
down the
did it.
hill?
Yeah, down the hill. He says, like,
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
hill, and that case was so creepy, and I was like, "This might be, like, the closest you'll ever gonna get to seeing, like, something happening like that." But then I didn't know about this case at that time, so this one is, like, actually you see the kidnapping in real like, not real time, but as it's happening, it's real time. It's crazy. So that's gonna stand out to me, I think, so far, for this case, because until now, I thought that other case was, like, the closest really you could get to kinda seeing that or like it just makes it stand out in your mind, right? Because you never see that. But this case is actually you do, so
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah. It is crazy. And I think the reason why everyone talks about obviously they talk about Samantha Koenig's murder when they're talking about Israel Keyes is because of that footage and all the information that we have about it, because this is one of the few cases that he actually um is charged with or like confesses to. And it has the most information, and it's actually like the only time they ever found a body of a known Israel Keyes victim. And yeah, so like, as I mentioned in previous episodes, Keyes was, like, extremely meticulous, and he planned out his crimes so carefully that there's very little evidence surrounding any of his cases aside from Samantha Koenig. and they spanned across the entire US, that for years police didn't even realize that they were dealing with a serial killer at all. In most instances, the FBI has never recovered Israel's victims' bodies. Samantha Koenig is one of the very few exceptions, and investigators only found her remains because Israel Keys told them exactly where to look. And there's only one additional case that may be connected to him, which I will get into later. And so with that, I'm going to dive back into Israel's story. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm just going to recap here a little bit. Israel Keys did not want his name in the media. After his arrest, he entered into an agreement with the FBI. He would cooperate, but only if his identity was kept from the public. He also didn't want the process dragging out. He wanted his story told quickly on his terms, and he pushed for an execution date and made it clear that he intended to remain in control of how everything unfolded. And so I think this is probably one of the reasons why he had so much power over the FBI, because they didn't really have anything to hold against him. Like they couldn't say you're going to get the death penalty if you don't cooperate, because he wanted the death penalty and he was holding all this information to guarantee that he did get the death penalty, so they didn't really have like a threat to hold over him, really. Much of the information I'm sharing comes from the podcast True Crime Bullshit, which is hosted by Josh Hallmark, and he has devoted multiple seasons to this case. Like I said, he's like on his 7th season just about Israel Keys, and this podcast goes into great detail about the ongoing power struggle between Keys and the FBI. There's like a back and forth negotiation that stretched on for months. And Keys wanted to give investigators just enough information to keep them engaged, but not so much that he lost control over the narrative. He seemed to believe that if he revealed too much, then the FBI would be able to connect the dots on their own, and that they wouldn't need him to kind of fill in the gaps. And that was something that he refused to allow. And so having this control over them was really important to him. And so here's a clip from an interview with investigators on June 7th, 2012, and you can hear just how he withholds details, how he's using information about his crimes as leverage, and sometimes to negotiate, and sometimes just to like taunt the FBI. So we'll take a listen to that one now.
Reality sets in for me as to how much more time there is to pass before I may find out things I need to find out.
And your feeling is if you give us additional information, it's going to affect other things or not affect other things, or you're going to control over it?
Yeah, it's once I give out the information, then it's gone.
Well, let me just jump in on that, because this is getting, I should say frustrating, but I could almost say it's getting depressing, right? That and maybe you feel the same way, that you have been meeting with us now about other crimes
Right.
for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think it's getting kind of just downright depressing that we are not moving forward. And I don't think it's because, I'm not sure why it is. I mean, we came in here a month ago and laid out that plan that Frank Russo laid out, and because we've been kind of bending over backwards from the U.S. Attorney's Office perspective of saying, look, we're going to work with you, and we're going to move the other things forward that are going to need to be moved forward with all these other crimes.
Right.
And we all kind of understand that we're going to need to move forward, and so we thought you were on the schedule of wanting to move other crimes investigations forward. We know you want to keep the media down. We don't want to be charged in other jurisdictions. We know those things. We took them into account, and we came up with a strategy to say, well, let's move them forward. And we really kind of busted ourselves to do that. So we're getting kind of just, like I said, I should be saying frustrated, but I'll start with just kind of depressed about that we're not moving those things forward. And so, what's your view on that?
And the same with law enforcement. This isn't a typical way to move forward with this type of investigation. And so for us, it's frustrating, and we're doing it this way because this is the way that Israel wanted to do it, and
What's your take on our?
This isn't the way I wanted to do it.
Well, just tell us what your take is on that.
Well, my take is, I've said this before, even though we may at this point all want the same end results, it doesn't mean we're on the same team by any means.
We've always known that. We're not
Right.
pretending.
So I'm not. I understand that you've got your schedule, you've got your deadlines, you've got things you've got to get done. But honestly, that's of no concern to me. If we can continue to work together and make stuff happen, great. If not, if it's not going the way you want it to, or you're not getting your information fast enough, then do what you got to do. But I already know you'll be back. So,
well, and maybe we've been too honest with you then. I guess. We know we know that we're not on the same team. Well, yeah, because if you're saying, I think what you're saying is you're kind of challenging us, and I didn't think that's where we were in our discussions.
No, I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying I know you've got your agenda, what you need to get done, and what you have to have something to show for it, for your work on this.
Well, but it's sort of funny because we thought it was your agenda that was kind of driving this and wanting to move things quickly and wanting to keep the media on, and that's why we've been working on kind of your agenda. That's why I'm like, wait a second, this is what Israel wanted.
No, you're right. It's so far it has gone according to my agenda as much as it can. The issue is there's still a lot of time that's going to pass before I get the things I want. So if I give up all my cards right away, then that's it. I have no control over what happens a month from now or 6 months from now.
What an arrogant piece of shit was my thought.
Yeah,
just like-
that definitely comes out in that interview.
You just would never know he was. He's a psychopath, but the way he's talking, like it's just so. He's just talking about the weather or something.
Yeah, so nonchalant. Like, doesn't care, couldn't care less. Like, whatever. It is what it is. Loser.
Yeah, I know. It's very much like, I can't tell you too much because then it's not going to go the way I want it to. So I'm just not going to say too much. Super frustrating. And there has been people question why the FBI are so, we talked about this in the previous episode, why they're just so cooperative and lenient with him. And people are like, yeah, they could have just said whatever they wanted, lied to him, and then later been like, oh yeah, actually that's not true what we said. But I think also if they had done that, then they would lose all trust and he would just completely shut down and not say anything. So they didn't want to risk that as well, probably. But yeah, he just definitely had a hold on them that they couldn't shake because they wanted information from him. And so he talked like that throughout almost the whole time, just holding things over them and all that stuff. So over time, Keyes did begin to provide more detail, names, locations, and methods, but much of what he shared remained vague. And investigators believed he may have killed 5 people in Washington state alone, but that number has never been proven, and it was never fully confirmed by Keyes himself. So his first known murder is believed to have occurred sometime between July and October of 2001. And there is suspicion that the victim may have been a neighbor of his when he lived in Washington, someone who went missing on a hike and was later found with their death ruled accidental. The victim's name has been redacted from FBI files, and as far as I know, their identity has never been released publicly. And even the FBI interview with Keyes' girlfriend at the time has been heavily redacted with the key details withheld. So we don't know exactly who this potential victim is, or if it actually was a victim, or if it was an accident. Still another question that may never get answered. His second and third victims were believed to have been a couple taken from or killed sometime between October 2001 and 2005. Their remains have never been found. Keyes claims that he buried them in a valley in Washington state, and investigators believe that he may have abducted them in another state and then transported them to Washington to kill and bury them. And that method is consistent with his known behavior to abduct them from somewhere, cross state lines, and kill and dispose of them somewhere else. So, according to the podcast True Crime Bullshit, there is only one reported unsolved missing couple case in the northwestern United States between July 2001 and April 2005. And that couple disappeared from Oregon, just 300 miles from Nia Bay, which is where Keyes had lived at the time. And authorities know that the victim was a male female couple, that one of them died from blunt force trauma during an attempted restraint, and that the crime occurred after the birth of Keyes' daughter in October of 2001, but before July of 2006. And there has been speculation that this couple may have been a teenage pair who were vacationing in the area. At the time, their families believed that they may have been swept off the beach by a wave and carried out to sea. However, in that region, bodies are often returned to shore due to riptides and current patterns, making the complete absence of remains really unusual. And so, once again, this appears to be an example of Keyes withholding information. He's keeping the truth just out of reach as a way to maintain control. And I'm just going to show another clip that kind of highlights this control and this dynamic that he had with the FBI. I just find it, like, his interviews and the way he talks just, like, so interesting, even though it's frustrating. I'm just like, it's just like, I find it just fascinating.
Yeah, and his laugh, like,
Oh,
I
I
mean, you just
know.
anytime you like, I mean, we're listening to a it's psychopath, like, it's just it is very
Yeah, for
interesting.
sure. Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I know you talked about closure and things like that, but I don't see it from that point of view.
That's not how you're looking at it.
No, because hypothetically speaking, someone else is missing. Would everybody rather just believe that they're just missing, or think that something horribly terrible happened to them?
I'll tell you what the experts say, though. I mean, the experts, that's what people believe. The experts will say that they're better off knowing than missing.
I know I sure wouldn't want to know that.
That's what they say. That everybody's better off knowing.
I'd feel better off thinking they were on a beach somewhere in Mexico than knowing they were horribly raped and murdered.
Well, nobody needs to hear. People don't need to hear about that horrible detail necessarily, right? They want to know, is my son, daughter, loved one dead or alive? That's what they want to know.
But that's not all they're going to get. I mean,
Well,
if it's tied to me, if my name's tied to it.
But you control those details.
So,
Gotcha,
yeah,
loser.
it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like has this rationale where it's like, I don't want to put the details out there because the family's just better off not knowing. And of course, they're like,
Yeah,
well,
as if he cares about the family. It's like, this
yeah.
is so pathetic. He's a loser.
Yeah, and also they're like, well, you don't have to say those details. We can say, like, who they are and where they are, so at least the family knows. But yeah, he's just like, well, I'd rather think my family was, in Mexico on the beach than dead. It's like, well, no, people need
Yeah,
to know.
but they also know that they're not on a beach in Mexico. So, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like that or the other thing. It's like, no, they're gone. So they know something horrible probably has happened, but it's like the closure. Yeah, I don't know. He's just, yeah. I think he
Yeah,
ultimately he loves the power. Like, I think he loves the fact that he knows and he can choose um whether or not he tells people. I think that's part of it, or a
mm-hmm.
lot of it.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell that he loves that.
Hmm.
It's like the only person in the world that knows is him, and he's just like not gonna let you know about it. Yeah, it's crazy. Another case often discussed in connection with Israel Keys is the murder of Mary Cooper and her daughter Susanna Stodden. And they were found shot to death while hiking on July 10th, 2001 in the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest in Washington, which is about 200 miles east of Nia Bay, which is where I said Israel Keyes was living at that time. So while the location fits Keyes' preference for remote, secluded areas, there were several elements that did not align with his known behavior. There was no evidence of a sexual assault, no attempt to conceal the bodies, and Keyes himself stated that his crimes were sexually motivated. And he also claimed that he only ever shot one victim, which was a man named Bill Currier, whose story we'll get to shortly. So even though that mother and daughter are always brought up when people talk about Israel Keyes, there's speculation about whether they fit with his crime spree or not. He was ultimately ruled out as a suspect in this case just due to confirmed whereabouts before and after the murders. And this, when looking at Israel Keyes, like this happens frequently. Whenever an unsolved homicide or cold case surfaces, investigators revisit Keyes' timeline to see if there is any possible connection. And he was even examined as a potential suspect in high-profile cases um, like Murray case. They looked maybe it was possibly Israel, and even Jennifer Kesse. He was brought up to maybe possibly be involved in that. But of course, this has been ruled out in both those cases. And since 1997, the FBI has retraced Keyes' movements year by year, hoping to connect his travel history with unsolved disappearances. And their goal is to overlay his known locations with missing persons cases that fit his timeline and behavior. You can actually see the FBI's official map on their website. I'll link it in the show notes, and I'll also show it here, just so you can kind of see how in depth they are looking into him, and they still are. So yeah, here's the map of his travels and where his known locations, and just trying to get a sense of where he was, where he went, what he was doing. And I mean, they have years of tracking plane tickets and car rentals, things that they know for sure are linked to him. So it's just kind of crazy how far, all the way over here and over here. So up in Canada. Yeah, there's still a lot of information out there that they're trying to connect to him. Another thing that makes his crimes so hard to track is that there is sometimes evidence of him crossing a border from one country to another, but not going the other way. For example, there's a record of him leaving Victoria, British Columbia, but there's no record of him ever entering Canada at that time. So they have record of him leaving but not coming. And then at one point, before he moved to Alaska, he traveled internationally frequently with his girlfriend, and she always used her miles and traveled for work very often. And so there's not a link with his credit cards buying tickets because it's always through her work and through her miles and things. So it's hard to track him that way. And the True Crime Bullshit podcast goes into details about a lot of potential missing persons cases that could be linked to Keyes. And there are a number of international missing persons cold cases that just happen to have records that Keyes was only a few hundred miles away. And there's speculation that Keyes was fascinated with missing people. And so when they did a search of his computer and phone, they found tons of searches of pictures of missing people. A lot of them are known not to be his victims, but there's some that can't be ruled out. And two of the names on the list of missing people that he had searched for were two people named Bill and Lorraine Currier, who were actual victims of his. So you have this list of missing persons. Some of them are linked to him. Some of them nobody knows. So it's how many of those are his victims that he's just searching up again? Nobody really knows. So Keyes also alluded to murdering at least two additional people while living in Washington, claiming he disposed of their bodies in lakes. He owned a boat during this period, and investigators later found blood evidence, bone fragments, rope, and zip ties on his boat. And while DNA testing was conducted, the results were never publicly released. So I don't know I'm guessing they didn't connect it to anybody because nothing ever came of those results. And the murders are believed to have been taken place between spring of 2005 and July of 2006. And there are roughly 50 missing persons cases that fit this time frame. So another thing that comes up often is well, is Israel Keyes even telling the truth when he talks about these things? Like, could he maybe have just like heard about stuff and now he's like claiming them as his own? And like, I mean, my guess is probably not everything he's saying is truthful, or like, I don't know. He holds a lot of things back, but is what he's saying even the truth? So there are incidences in his interrogations where he contradicts some of what he says. There's speculation out there that he may be embellishing some of the details and not admitting to some of his murders if he felt that they weren't successful or that they didn't go the way he wanted, which I guess has happened in the past to other killers. So on the True Crime Bullshit podcast, they actually talked to like psychologists and serial killer experts. And one of them talks about how even crimes that are linked to certain serial killers, they won't admit to because they were like botched or they didn't go the way that they thought they should go. And so they just like don't even claim them. So they're thinking that maybe this could happen to Israel Keyes as well. If like there was a struggle or he killed them in a way that he wasn't planning, he doesn't want to admit to them because they're like failures, kind of. The FBI believes that he's responsible for 11 murders, and not because he's linked to 11 and not because he admitted to 11, but because he like didn't deny that it was 11. So according to the True Crime Bullshit, they came to the number 11 because he said that it was less than a dozen people that he had killed. And when they inferred that it was 11, he didn't object. But when they would say something like he had killed 10, for example, he would say, no, I never said it was that many. But when they said, oh, okay, 11, like he never said it wasn't 11. So that's kind of like, okay, it must be 11. So it's really unclear. They're not really sure, but they're sticking with 11, I guess. Now I'm going to come to his actual next confirmed case. And this was the disappearance of a couple in June of 2011 in Vermont. On June 8th, 2011, in a quiet Vermont neighborhood, something horrific was about to unfold. Months earlier, during a trip to Vermont, Israel Keyes had buried one of his murder kits. As we discussed in the previous episode, he hid these kits across the country so that he wouldn't need to transport weapons or tools and risk being caught with the stuff in his vehicle. And so this particular kit contained zip ties, ammunition, guns with silencers, duct tape, and Drano, which he later admits to using because it would help accelerate decomposition of a body. Keyes scouted out this location and he believed it was perfect for a murder because it was isolated, quiet, and it would be impossible to trace him back to. As was his pattern, he didn't travel directly to the crime scene. He flew into Chicago and then drove roughly 1,000 miles through winding New England back roads until he reached Vermont. On June 7th, 2011, he checked into a hotel in Essex, and from there he began scouting for a house, looking specifically for one with no pets, no children, and easy access to an attached garage. And when he found a house that matched what he was looking for, he said that based on the setup and just how it looked, that he assumed it belonged to an older couple. So he cut the phone lines and he waited, and a neighbor kept stepping outside to smoke, forcing Keyes to delay his plans. So he later described hiding behind the swimming pool in the backyard, moving in and out of the garage, which he broke into, just kind of waiting for the neighborhood to finally quiet down. When he did break in, Bill and Lorraine Currier heard the noise immediately, but Keyes had reached their bedroom within seconds before they had time to react. And in his confession, he laughed while he described how shocked and initially cooperative they were. He zip-tied their hands and feet, and he laid out strict rules. He said no talking and no moving unless he told them. He asked about money, jewelry, he asked if they had a safe, and he made it seem like it was just a robbery, but he knew exactly what he intended to do before he ever even entered the house. He even recounts telling them that this was a kidnap for ransom to kind of ease their mind and maybe make them a little bit more cooperative. He says he kept asking them about where the drugs were in an attempt to make them think that he had kidnapped the wrong people and that he would eventually let them go once he realized that they were the wrong people. So he'd like had this whole manipulative plan set up beforehand, just kind of like make them at ease beforehand. Even though, like I said, he knew exactly what was going to happen. He spent roughly 15 minutes inside the Currier's home before forcing them into their car and driving them to a second location. There was an abandoned farmhouse just a few miles away which he had also scouted out previously. So this farmhouse was isolated, it was decaying, and it was terrifying, even in the daylight. I'm gonna show you a picture of it just so you can kind of get an idea of what this place looked like.
It's not bad enough that he, like, kidnapped them and tied them up. He's, like, messing with their minds, like, "I'm gonna maybe I'll let you go," like, "This is the wrong people." Like, it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, making them think, like, that he has the wrong situation and that he will let them go, but yeah, it's like it is awful. So here's a Google map image of this old abandoned farmhouse that he had found and brought them to, and mind you, so it's dark when he brought them here, so just imagine how terrifying that would be. Um, can't imagine. It's scary, like, even just looking at it, I'm like, "Oh,
It's
Christ."
terrifying. Mhm.
It is terrifying, yeah. You just imagine what it looks like inside too, right? Like, ooh. And they probably, like, have seen this house before, and they're just like, "Holy crap," like, when you pull up to that in the middle of the night, terrifying. Once inside, Keyes separated the couple, he took Bill to the basement, and he tied him to a stool, intending to bring Lorraine upstairs. Both resisted, and Lorraine managed to break free and tried to run, but Keyes managed to tackle her and restrain her again. And Bill also fought to escape, from the basement, and Keyes talks about how he's getting frustrated when they fought back, and, I'm gonna play another clip of him talking about Lorraine and Bill here, um, just so you kinda get a sense of again, it'll be him very nonchalantly just talking about a murder.
Then I heard some movement downstairs because at that point she had finally shut up a little bit, and I heard something downstairs, and that's when I started having problems with the guy. I went down there and he had the stool. He was kind of a big guy, like overweight, and the stool had just collapsed. And I guess when it collapsed, the cable ties that I had on his wrist behind his back, they had broke, and the stool like came apart, and I don't know, just messed my whole plan up. So I was kind of pissed off about that, and I was like yelling at him, like, why are you trying to get away? You're just making it worse. And at that point, he was still like trying to talk me out of it. He's like, just let us go. I know you're in too deep, but we haven't really seen you. You can still walk away. And I just kind of laughed at him. I was like, I don't know if I actually said anything, but in my head, I was like, you don't even know how much planning I've put into this, and just walk away. And but he wouldn't. I mean, at that point, like I say, he had just reached a point where he wasn't gonna cooperate no matter what. And I didn't have the Ruger 1022 on me. I had it. It was upstairs in the backpack. I had my 40 cal and I had a knife, and I didn't want to use the knife on him. It was like make a big mess, and so I think I just kind of grabbed him by the neck and pushed him up against one of the posts and put the knife to him, and he still, like, he had his hands out, but he still wasn't doing what I said, and then I started getting pissed, and I just told him, I was like, I have a gun upstairs, and if you want to do this the hard way or do it the easy way, it's up to you. He didn't really believe me or take me seriously or whatever. So there was a shovel in the basement, and I hit him with that a couple times, and he was still trying to wrestle with me and stuff. And I just came to the realization that he wasn't gonna stop fighting, and so I knew I was either gonna have to knock him out or just kill him. But by then I already had her all set up upstairs, and it was it's like it was annoying me that I was having to deal with him, and that was part of the whole plan for taking a couple. I had this idea in my head of what was going to happen, and she was screwing it up, I guess. So so once I realized he wasn't going to let me tie him back up again, I just kind of gave up on that part of the plan. I was like, oh, I'm just going to kill him, I guess.
Yeah, so thoughts on that?
He's
Just
just probably the
annoying.
most irritating person I've ever listened to.
Yeah. Just like he was that one thing he said, he's like, he was causing, he was like messing up my plan, or he was like making things difficult. It's like, well, you chose to go in there, and God forbid he tries to stay alive. I don't know. So annoying. He's just arrogant.
Yeah, I can't stand him.
I know. It's almost like
How does he even
sometimes
have like any friends or like he sounds like a horrible loser.
I know, and, like, sometimes he almost sounds like he's bored, like, even when you're watching, like, these videos of his interrogations, like, he's, like, yawning and just, like, leaning back, and it's just, like it's like a you know, it's boring or annoying for him to have to, like, talk about this, so
Just
you just
he's
tell
just
how
devoid of any, like, emotion.
yeah, he
He's
definitely
just
is.
like a straight up psychopath.
Yeah, he is. And he
Did
so
they
he
like did they ever like determine that he was actually a psycho? I mean, it's clear he is, but like, was he ever given that official like diagnosis of psychopathy or whatever?
I don't know because the thing is, like, he talks about how he cared about his, like, daughter, and he didn't want her to find out about all this stuff. And so he, like, feels like he had genuine, like, love for her, which wouldn't be possible if he was, like, a complete socio or psychopath. I don't know. So, it was weird. I don't know if he was ever, like, given that title. Nothing that I saw, but, I feel like he for sure had at least some sort of, like, diagnosis like that would fit.
I wonder what
Um,
his IQ was, because most psychopaths are like they're like genius, aren't they?
yeah, I think a lot of them probably are. I don't know. 'Cause, like, I don't yeah, it seems like he's, like, an intelligent person, right? Just by the way he talks, and especially how he was so meticulous and was able to plan and get away with it. Like, you have to have some intelligence to do that and plan that far ahead, but yeah, I think his arrogance got the best of him, like we talked about before. He goes on for, like, 2 hours like this, just explaining in depth about this crime, and this is all on YouTube, all his interrogations, if you wanna listen to that in detail. Some of the stuff's pretty gruesome and horrific. After Bill continued to struggle, Keyes struck him with a shovel and then shot him with a silenced 22 caliber weapon. He then sexually assaulted Lorraine and strangled her to death. Later, Keyes placed their bodies in separate garbage bags and tucked them into a corner of the basement and covered them with debris. By the time investigators were led to the farmhouse, so this is during the investigation when he told them where they were and where the house was, during his interrogation, it had been demolished and everything sent to the landfill at this point, but they were able to kind of confirm that Israel wasn't lying and connect him to these murders because Bill's glasses were recovered from the debris, confirming the location. But despite extensive searches, their remains were never found. Those are the only other confirmed murders of Israel Keyes. And like I said, True Crime Bullshit is on their 7th season of the Israel Keyes deep dive and looking into possible connections and trying to piece all the pieces together. And so this is just another one of those cases that we'll never know all the answers to, as Keyes took most of his secrets to his grave. On December 2nd, 2012, Keyes was found dead in his jail cell. He had died by suicide. In his cell, they found a suicide note. They found writing on the wall in his blood with a picture of 12 skulls with the writing, "We are one." And the circumstances around his death have raised some questions. So, one, he was supposed to be on suicide watch in a cell that had surveillance video because they had found like a makeshift noose in his cell before. And so he was on suicide watch, but he had been moved back to a regular cell that day. And he was somehow given a razor blade by a guard by accident, and he was able to slit his wrist right on the wall in blood, make a makeshift noose, and die in his bed, all while another guard was supposed to be doing routine checks every 30 minutes. And he wasn't found dead until the next morning after he'd already been dead for hours. And so His suicide note didn't show any kind of remorse at all, no apologies, like, nothing about his crimes. There was no admission to anything. It was just kind of ramblings of a man who, it seems, was very cynical and resentful of, like, just America in general, and here's, like, some snippets from his letter. Some of the lines were, "You may have been free, you loved living your lie. Fate had its own scheme, crushed like a bug, you still die. Soon, now, you'll join those ranks of dead, where your ashes the wind will soon blow. Family and friends will shed a few tears, pretend it's off to heaven you go. But the reality is, you were just bones and meat, and with your brain died, also your soul. Land of the free, land of the lie, land of scheme, Americanize. Consume what you don't need, stars you idolize, pursue what you admit is a dream, then it's American Die. Now that I have you held tight, I will tell you a story. Speak soft in your ear so you know that it's true. You're my love at first sight, and though you're scared to be near me, my words penetrate your thoughts. Now, in an intimate prelude. I looked into your eyes, they were so dark, warm, and trusting, as though you had not a worry or care. The more guileless the game, the better potential to fill up those pools with your fear. Your wet lips were a promise of secret unspoken, nervous laughter as it burst through a pulse of blood from your throat. There will be no more laughter here. So, yeah, that's just like some random lines from his suicide note. Um, Disturbing, creepy, and
Yeah.
yeah,
God,
that,
he's a poet.
yeah,
Or tried to be.
I know. Yeah, definitely disturbed. Like that was just like his final message to the police. I don't know, to the world, to whoever. Um, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm gonna end talking about Israel Keys. And like I said, the True Crime Bullshit podcast is like on season 7, and they're like still releasing episodes. So I feel like I'm just gonna keep listening, and I don't know, maybe even do another update if they ever recover or find anything else about Israel Keys linking him to anybody. Yeah, super interesting, scary, creepy.
So is there any because like the scenario around his suicide was kind of like weird. Like is anyone questioning that it was a suicide or not? Or like we assume it is, but it's just the fact that like no one saw anything and or
Yeah,
anything.
I don't think there anyone questioned it was a suicide. But the guard that was supposed to be like watching that night lost his job. He said he like would do the routine walkarounds, but it looked like like Israel was just like sleeping in his bed under the covers like he usually did. He didn't notice that there was like blood pooling underneath his bed from his slit wrist. I guess he didn't notice the writings on the wall. And so every time he would just come to check on them or check on all the prisoners, it looked like he was just sleeping. And he was fired because of that. Like they said during, like in between these like 30 minutes where he was supposed to be routinely checking, he was like reading a book or he'd be talking on the radio with other guards, and they're just like he wasn't paying close enough attention, so he lost his job. But other than that, like they don't really have anything to question that it wasn't suicide. But I just find it weird that he happened to be moved from the suicide watch, and he happened to have a razor blade that he somehow accidentally got a hold of from a guard. Like, I don't know. How does all that happen?
Yeah. How do you accidentally get that?
I know. Yeah,
Like
it's weird.
that's weird.
Very weird. So, yeah, any final thoughts?
Um, he just took the coward's way out, of course, they all do. And yeah, he's an idiot, really. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
people shed a few tears that he died." I think it'd be tears of joy, actually, but okay.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna care. They didn't.
But yeah, I think the only reason we care
Um
is because like we don't know all the details of what he actually did. Like that's the frustrating part. Wish he would have just
I
like
do find it interesting. He's cocky as hell, but he didn't want his name out there. That doesn't usually. You think it'd be you think he want him to be known. I find that I find that very
I don't know,
different.
maybe he did though. Maybe that's just part of his scheme ultimately. Like I mean he had to have known that his name's gonna be out there. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
he wanted it.
Because, like, it seemed like he loved talking about his crimes when he finally like, when he was talking about Samantha Koenig, you could tell he was, like, enjoying it, and he went on for, like, 2 hours about the murder of Bill and Lorraine Currier, so it was like he definitely wanted to tell investigators about that, like, go into detail. So, yeah, it seems weird that he didn't want his name to be famous with, like, the other famous serial killers. I don't know.
But then
It's
it's like,
weird.
what? Why not tell them about all the people you killed then? If you want to be more impressive, you know what I mean? Like, why just stick to those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really, like, consistent, I feel. Like, I don't know.
I know, I think that was just all
I don't
part
know.
of his game. It was just like, "I know the stuff, you're never gonna know it, and now I'm gonna be dead, and you're, like, never gonna find the answer, so too bad for you." I don't know. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy one.
And that was, like, his way to just, like so he can have that last laugh, like, all this information is gonna die with me, basically.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like
So
he
annoying.
probably felt that, like, because he wanted to be, like, executed, and he probably felt that it wasn't gonna happen quick enough, because it usually takes years for that kind of thing to happen, and like I said before, they didn't have anything to hold over him. They're not gonna be like, "You're gonna get the death penalty if you don't tell us everything," because he was like, "Well, that's what I want," and so, yeah, it just wasn't happening fast enough, so he's like, "I'm just gonna do it myself. Take control."
I feel like anyone who wants death penalty should be on suicide watch, and I feel like anyone who was on suicide watch should never get off suicide watch. I mean, I just don't think anyone should be off suicide watch if they were suicidal.
Well, yeah, I know. It seems crazy that he was, like, taken away from the suicide ward and put into a regular cell. I don't know. Yeah, that's why there's, like, questions about why all that happened.
He's not. It's just crazy that he's not really well known at all. Like, you say that name to somebody as a serial killer, they're like, "Who?" But he actually turned out to be one of the scariest, I
I
think.
know. That's like, yeah, like, AJ had never heard of him, which is, like, crazy, and I hadn't heard of him until, like, maybe even, like, a year ago, even though all this happened over 10 years ago. It's crazy. So I guess he
Yeah.
kind of got what he wanted, like, he's not up there with the Ted Bundys,
Yeah.
like, his name doesn't come up, but
Yeah.
I think it's because, like,
Crazy.
you can't have proof of everyone that he killed. There's not, like, a list of names.
Yeah.
There's possibilities and, like, maybe you can link them, but there's not, like, yeah, he did this and we know it for sure, so, yeah. It's like a mystery, I feel like we're one of those ones you're just never gonna know. Another frustrating not gonna know case.
Crazy. Imagine for his, like and for, like, his I don't know, was his wife or his girlfriend, like, to think, like, somebody you were with, that he had this, like, double life, and that crazy that, like, they went on that vacation, and, like,
And, like,
obviously she didn't know.
what does his
Like
daughter like, what's his daughter think? What's
yeah.
his daughter
I
like,
know.
she's an adult now. Like, imagine your dad imagine going on vacation, like, a nice cruise with your dad, and like, it was one of the happiest memories of having dad with your dad, but he literally just killed someone before like, the day
I
before the
know, and
cruise.
their body's, like, still
Like,
stashed in the shed the whole time, like, that's
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
And, like, then he goes on a cruise and has the best time with his kid, and there's, like, happy pictures of that time. It's like, "Oh, I just, like, brutally murdered somebody 12 hours before." I don't know,
Yeah, or,
you
like,
just never
going
know
on that
what.
road trip across the country to a wedding, like, with your dad and, like and
Yeah.
the whole time he's,
Mhm.
like, using the debit card of the person
Yeah.
he had just murdered, like yeah.
And, like, the police are tracking him the whole time during that trip, and
I know,
the daughter's
yeah.
just thinking like, it's
Yeah,
just you just
the
never.
police, like, roll up to the bank, like, 5 minutes after they just left, like, like, you have
Yeah.
no idea this is happening, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, "Oh, just a nice road trip with my dad. He
Yeah.
bought me all," like,
It really
you
is like
know.
a movie or a show, like, where the police show up and, like, the people
Yeah.
that just nonchalantly pull out, they don't even know. Yeah, crazy.
It's crazy, crazy.
It is.
That's crazy. And I, like even though I know that that picture from the first episode isn't real, it was, like, a reenactment, but it's still gonna, like, haunt me. Even the reenacted picture is gonna haunt me,
It's
and, like, the
terrifying.
surveillance
I know.
video.
Yep.
That's yeah, of him coming through the window, like, that is this thing of nightmares. That's terrifying.
It really is, like,
It's
yeah,
terrifying.
it actually is one of my nightmares.
I will never work in a little kiosk
Mm-mm.
ever again.
It's
Yeah, can you
it's
imagine if you still worked at the dairy at the dairy bar?
I know, that's what I pictured the dairy bar.
Ugh, yeah. It's so
And there's, like, a
s
basement down there too. It's terrifying.
that
Did
is
they have surveillance
terrifying.
video?
I don't know, they probably saw me stealing ice cream.
God.
I don't think they do. Just kidding.
That's why you got fired. No, I'm kidding. The whole time the actors were
No, they didn't. Then you also said we could have, but we could have as much ice cream as you wanted. But so I don't think they cared. But I don't think there was surveillance there. There might be now. I don't think there was then.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, that video is gonna haunt me.
Also, like, when you, like, look back and see that she tried to run away, and you can see that in the video. Yeah, that's so sad.
I have to go back and watch that. I missed that part of the video.
Yeah, it's near the
I
end,
didn't see that.
like 10-minute mark or something
Yeah.
like that. You
Oh.
can see, like, it's the top right or the top corner of the left one. You can see.
Top
Oh, the
corner.
left?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go back and watch it because
Oh, yeah,
I
the
didn't
left
see
one,
that.
yeah.
I saw them walking away together. I didn't see
Yeah, like just keep watching.
anybody but.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember when you were saying that, I was like going back to look at it. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy case.
It is.
Mhm.
Yep.
Do you think they'll ever like come up like discover new victims or connect old
I mean-
cold cases to him?
There's no way to know. How are they ever gonna know it's him? He's not. I mean,
Well, DNA.
Yeah.
I
But they
guess.
haven't found a lot of the bodies that, like, of missing people that they're just, like, never I feel like they like, where are they gonna find them if you buried them in random places? But, like, yeah, this podcast that I've been talking about this whole time, they go into, like, deep dives of, like, each person that they think could have been one of his victims, and they talk to FBI, and they, like, talk to people and talk to the family, and yeah. So there's, like, a lot of, like, that on that podcast, but there's no actual, "Yeah, he did it. We connected them," but there's, like, maybes.
Crazy that they think Maura Murray and the Jennifer Kesse could be victims of him. I don't think Jennifer Kesse is,
No.
but Maura Murray might be.
Yeah, I think they ruled him out just because, like, they have actual evidence that he was somewhere else. But
yeah,
like those crazy ones where it's just like a disappearance, like it could have been him.
yeah, it could
All over the world,
on any of
even.
the disappearances. Yeah,
Yeah.
like any disappearance that we cover, or even ones we haven't covered and that you see in the news, he could be behind it.
Yep.
You know,
I know.
I mean, one day,
And if, and if
if the
that's
body,
the case, like there'll be cold cases forever.
yeah, but like one day, you never know when you can stumble upon a body in like someone remote in the woods, and then DNA matched it to him. Like that could always
Yeah,
happen.
it could. It'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
who knows what will happen?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did the Maura Murray one happen again? Like they know he was out.
05, 04, I think. 05. Oh no, 2002, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was around then.
Yeah.
But
Or
yeah,
oh, 2004. February
2004.
9th, 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find because the FBI has this like timeline. It's between February 6th and 13th. He rented a car in Utah though, so
Mm.
not close.
yeah. I also find
Not
it
close.
weird how like they know that he left Victoria, like BC on this day, but they don't know when he
Yeah,
came in. Like it's just like there's no record of him
How the hell
ending the
he swim
country.
there?
Yeah, like yeah.
Like in a submarine or something?
know,
Like how the hell did he get
I
there?
think that happened in
Yeah.
Mexico too. Like they have him like coming into Mexico, but they don't have record
How
of
does
him
that
leaving.
happen?
Yeah, I know.
What the hell?
Someone's not paying attention, or he's just like super good at
Someone smuggled him in a box or something.
yeah. Or just
Really,
like fake
I-
ID, maybe.
I-
I find it surprising they wouldn't be traveling with like a fake ID.
Yeah, but if you had if you used a fake ID to get in but not out, that
I
doesn't
know
make
that's
sense.
weird. Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, but probably because he wouldn't have like used a fake ID, because if he like got caught with a fake ID, then that could like lead to an investigation.
I guess yeah, you wouldn't want to cross
So
the border with a fake ID, but yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
yeah. But I feel like
crazy.
checking into hotels and stuff, you can just use any name if you paid with cash and stuff.
Yeah.
Like so, there's no way to
Mhm.
trace that. So yeah, especially if you like rented a car and then like drove 1,000 miles in a different direction, you'd never know where he went.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe not. Is he the only serial killer that covered that much distance? I feel like
Yeah,
that. I feel like he is. Like, you don't see him
Yeah.
covering that much distance.
Like, the only way to,
Um,
like, even, like, tie a case to him would be, like, if he flew into the city, and then it's, like, where the case happened, it's, like, is it physically possible to drive from there to there in that time?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's why he has been
Like
ruled out for some of them because it was like there's no way he coulda got there and back in that amount of time or something, like, he was, like, seen somewhere, and then something happened, there's no way he coulda done that, like, stuff like that. But he, like he used to be in the military, and he was like, oh, he was deployed overseas, and he said he didn't commit any murders while he was overseas, but it's like, how do we know that? There could be, like, random people, like, overseas that no one's ever gonna find or know of, connected to him. So, yeah. Yeah.
right, I guess that's
And so
just
it's
yeah,
like
he's just like a, just another one. Just another serial killer that's hiding in plain sight. It's terrifying. Just never trust anybody. Essentially.
it's true.
yeah. I don't know if it's, like, ever since starting this podcast, it's like, I'm just hyper aware of things. Like, do you ever walk like, we're walking down the street and you're like, "There's a security camera there. There's a security
All the
camera."
time. All the
Yeah.
time. Or like I see a random garbage bag that's on the other side of the road,
Oh,
and it's
yeah,
like,
me too.
I'm like, that's that. I'm like, that's a body.
Or you see, like, a suitcase, like, I've seen, like, a
Yeah.
discarded suitcase somewhere, like
Yeah. Or like
yeah.
you
Yeah.
walk by the woods every day and you're like, I wonder like what happened. Like wonder if there's any. I wonder if there's any bodies in there or something. I don't know. I just always think of that. Like,
Yeah. That's it for our coverage of the Israel Keys case. So like Katie said, we're going to be putting like things in the show notes. So like some of the video, like the interrogation videos and things like that. We'll put those. So if you are interested in looking more into this case, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole on that with lots of videos to watch and things like that. I listened to that other podcast, True Crime Bullshit, which 7 seasons worth of material, which is kind of wild to think that they have that much. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed listening to our discussion or our coverage of the case. If you are a fan of the podcast and you're not yet following us, you can follow us on all the social media. So we're at Crime Family Podcast on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. You can also email us, crimefamilypodcast@gmail.com, if you have case suggestions or feedback on the show, or you have theories about any of the various cases we've covered, like the unsolved ones. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So engage with us. We would love that. And you can also, if you're interested in watching the video versions of these episodes, you can watch the video on YouTube. Um, just type in Crime Family Podcast on YouTube, you'll find us. And also on Spotify, you have access to the video version as well. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it's just the audio version there. But if you're interested in the video, you can find it on YouTube or Spotify. So that does it for this week. We'll be back next week with a brand new case. And until then, take care. Bye.
bye.
Bye.